Hey y'all, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing some more delicious and affordable dinner recipes. So first up, I'm making this chicken scampi over garlic parmesan rice. I shared this recipe a few years back and my family fell in love with this dish. So I figured it was time to bring it back. Maybe you missed it last time or maybe you are new, but either way, I promise you, this recipe is definitely worth giving a try. So the first thing that I did was add a couple tablespoons of olive oil to a large skillet. I have it on about a medium-high heat, and once it was hot enough, I added in my chicken tenderloins, seasoned side down, and then I just seasoned the other side in the skillet. So all I seasoned my chicken with was some Lawry's garlic salt and some black pepper. So I just cooked those for a few minutes on each side until it was fully cooked through. As you can see, it's created a beautiful sear on both sides, and I am just removing that to a separate plate. And I did do that in two batches. I did double the amount of chicken this time because my kids are older now and they really like chicken, so I definitely wanted to make sure that there was plenty. I covered that plate with some tinfoil. I'm going to keep that warm while I am making the rice. So to that same skillet, I added in a stick of butter. I did 2 big spoonfuls of minced garlic, a pinch of crushed red pepper flakes, and a little bit of salt. I fully intended on using fresh garlic in this recipe, but when I went to open up the container and chop it up, my garlic had gone bad. It was too far gone, so I had to use the jarred stuff, which I do feel like this dish is better with fresh garlic, but it still came out so incredibly good with the jarred stuff, so this was not a biggie for me. But yeah, I sauteed that garlic for like 30-40 seconds, and then I added in a half a cup of white wine. I did increase that heat a bit, and I let that simmer for a good like 5 minutes. You want that sauce to reduce down by half. So at that point, you want to take a few tablespoons out and reserve that. We're going to use it in the end. I'm adding in 1.5 cups of some uncooked long grain rice. I did wash it first, and I'm just toasting it in that garlic butter for a few minutes before adding in 3 cups of chicken broth. I'm just using water and chicken bouillon powder in place of that, and I also did a teaspoon of salt. So I'm going to bring this up to a boil. Once it reaches that, I'm going to cover it with a lid and turn that heat down to a low heat, and I'm going to let that steam for 20 minutes. Your rice should be fully cooked by that point. It should have absorbed all of the liquid, so I'm just fluffing it up, and I absolutely love what that butter does to the rice. It gives it like a better texture, and it's just so flavorful. So at this point, I'm going to add about a half a cup of some Parmesan cheese. I did shred that myself. And now I'm just going to start arranging those chicken tenders that are fully cooked all the way around the top of this rice. So I was able to make it all fit, and I think it's, a nice presentation, if I do say so myself. And of course, all that chicken juice that accumulated on the plate is going right back in that rice. And then I'm just taking that sauce that I reserved and just spooning a little bit over each piece of chicken. So I'm covering that back up, taking it off the heat, and I let it sit for about 5 minutes. That really kind of helps fully heat back up that chicken, and I just topped it with some extra Parmesan and some dried parsley. So here's my plate. I've got 2 of those chicken tenders over a bed of that rice, and I think steamed broccoli pairs really well with this. I purposely overcooked it because my kids tend to eat it better when I do that. But this recipe really is impressive. It's got such great flavor. It's one of those meals that tastes like you spent all day in the kitchen, when in reality it's really quick to throw together. Up next, I am making an Italian stromboli. So I really wanted to use a pre-packaged pizza dough for this, but that is not always available locally to me. So I had to make a quick homemade pizza dough, which I really didn't feel like doing this particular night, but I did it anyways, and of course I will have that recipe linked in my description box. I actually combined 2 recipes to make this, but I got that rolled out and grabbed some pizza sauce. I already had this Chef Boyardee one in my pantry, which I really love. I've talked about it for years now, but I don't think I would use it for this again, just because it is a little bit on the thinner side, which I made this messy, but I just took a brush, got that spread out, and then over top of the sauce, I am going to layer on some ham. This is just some regular old deli honey ham. Then I'm going to take some mozzarella cheese and just add a thin layer of that over the ham. I'm going thin because we're going to add more cheese and layers, but here I'm just adding some slices of salami. Here we go back in with the cheese. I am using some whole milk shredded mozzarella because I just really love the way that that melts. I feel like it tastes a little bit better than the regular stuff. I know it's probably a little higher in calories, but it's been worth it to me lately. And also, I'm really stuffy today. I'm trying my best to make these voiceovers go smooth, so hopefully y'all don't mind too much. But here I'm just going in with some pepperoni. You could also use the big slices of pepperoni, and that would also help with the mess, but I'm just big on using what I already have. But yeah, we're just going to do one more final layer of that cheese. And now the not so fun part is rolling this up. Now, I did use a different method than what I've done in the past. Some people make this look so easy, and I don't know. I really struggled with this, and I obviously could have cut this out, but I purposely left it in because the younger version of myself, something like this would have put me in such a bad mood, and now I just honestly do not care. I just wanted to show that, at the end of the day, we're all human, and stuff like this happens to every one of us, so it's okay if it doesn't go as pretty and smoothly as you see others do it. So, yeah, I finally made it work. I'm just pinching everything together. You definitely want to make sure that you kind of tuck and roll the sides, or else everything will ooze out, and that will be a disaster. But I decided to just cook that straight on that cookie sheet because that parchment paper looked disgusting, and it all worked out. So here I melted down a couple tablespoons of butter. I'm brushing that all over the top and the sides, and I'm just sprinkling on some garlic powder and dried parsley. Then I'm just going in with a sharp knife, and I'm cutting a few slits in the top. That way, as it cooks, that steam can escape. But I'm going to pop that in a 500-degree oven, and it should take anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes. Just keep an eye on it, but I just cut it into slices and serve it with a side of pizza sauce to dip it into. As you can see, these are fully loaded, which is exactly what we want, and I just paired it with this really delicious and fresh side salad, and the chaos was completely worth it. These were amazing, and I really like to work meals like this into the meal plan because we're not always in the mood for like chicken or beef or pork chop, so I just feel like it's a good way to switch it up, and it always hits. On this night, I'm trying out a new recipe for Sloppy Joes. We are a Sloppy Joe loving bunch here. I've had a tried and true family favorite recipe that I always whip out for this that I've used for several years. We absolutely love it. I will include a video to that recipe in my description box if you're interested. But I came across this version on TikTok and it looked really good and easy, so I just had to give it a try. So I started off by crumbling up and cooking 2 pounds of ground beef. I did season that with some onion and garlic powder, salt, and pepper. If you have a lot of excess grease, you will definitely want to drain some of that off. But here I just added in a diced up red bell pepper and a diced up green bell pepper. I prepped those earlier in the day. That way dinner time could be even faster. Also, if you like onions, you could absolutely add in some fresh onion here as well. But I just sauteed that until the pepper started to get soft. And then I added in 2 big spoonfuls of minced garlic, as well as a couple tablespoons of some tomato paste. So here I'm going to take the time to saute that garlic and also just try to get that tomato paste, to coat all the beef and the peppers and all that. And then I'm going to go in with several dashes of Worcestershire sauce. I absolutely love that with anything with ground beef. I also did a couple tablespoons of yellow mustard, a couple spoonfuls of brown sugar, and about 3/4 of a cup of ketchup. So you want to stop here and give it a stir. That way the ketchup doesn't start like bubbling out onto you. And then lastly, 3/4 of a cup of beef broth. That is it ingredient wise. I just let this simmer for like 15 minutes until I got my fries done. That was it. Here is what it looks like once it is done. Love the consistency of it. It wasn't like too thick or too thin. The smell of this cooking floating through your house is going to have you so ready to eat. I, of course, served these on hamburger buns, and I chose to do some pickles and mustard for mine, and I just served these with a side of french fries. I cooked those up in the air fryer real quick. This particular one does not get the best color on them. I don't really love that, but they still taste really good, which is what matters the most. And this recipe makes a lot, so we had it 2 nights in a row for dinner. It was really delicious. I would make it again, but I still love my crock pot version better. I'm pulling out another recipe that I have made in the past that we all really loved. This is going to be a $1,000,000 baked tortellini. This one is really easy and it is super kid friendly. The leftovers are great as well. So this time I'm going to cook up a pound of ground beef. And you know, it's kind of controversial, but I do like to season my ground meat when it's like halfway cooked through. I feel like it seasons it better, in my opinion. But I just seasoned it with salt, pepper, and onion powder, and I did a spoonful of minced garlic. I let that finish cooking. I drained the grease, and then I'm adding in a jar of spaghetti sauce. Use whatever brand you want to, and I always add a little water to the jar and shake it. That way I can get every little bit of it out. So I'm just going to get that combined good, and then I'm going to let this simmer on about a medium-low heat for like 10 minutes or so. While I was preparing that, I did have a pot of water coming to a boil, so this is the tortellini that I'm going to use. It's just some frozen cheese tortellini that I picked up at Save-A-Lot. You can use whatever tortellini you want to, fresh, frozen, it doesn't matter. You have to cook it either way, but you do want to cook it for like 1 minute less than what the package says. So I went and drained that and added it to the sauce. And now I'm going to grab a block of cream cheese. I'm going to pop that in the microwave. I did about 45 seconds. And then to that, I'm going to add a half a cup of some ricotta cheese, a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of onion powder, and a teaspoon of salt. And I'm just going to get that stirred together real good. As you can tell, that took no time at all. And it is seriously what makes this dish over the top. It's the best part, I swear. So now I'm going to grab my 9x13 casserole dish. I did spray it with some Pam cooking spray first, and I'm going to add half of that tortellini to the bottom. Yes, I made a mess. That skillet gets so heavy, especially just one hand, so I did the best I could, but got that spread out, and now I'm going to add all of that cream cheese ricotta mixture. I find it easier to do like big dollops all over the casserole, then take the back of my spoon and start spreading it, and it does spread really easily, which I love. Now I'm just going to simply take the remainder of that tortellini and meat sauce and just pour that right on top of the cream cheese layer. And with my spatula, I'm just going to get that spread on out. And while I am doing this, I am preheating my oven to 350 degrees. And then lastly, we just got to add some cheeses to the top. So first I did some Parmesan cheese. I just did the stuff out of the bottle. And then I'm doing some shredded mozzarella. I'm just using the regular this time. It's all I can get my hands on. Still delicious. And I'm going to get it covered tightly with some tin foil. And I'm going to pop that in the oven to bake for 30 minutes. So here is what it looks like after it is done. I really like that it cuts nicely. It's not like super messy, which is really nice when you're feeding the younger ones. I served it with a side of peas and some garlic breadsticks. This turned out incredible per usual. This is something I could totally see myself making for company if we had some over. And that's something I've always been really picky about, like when it comes to choosing food to feed people outside of our home. Lastly, I'm going to be making some barbecue pulled pork potato skins. Pulled pork stuffed baked potatoes is like one of our favorite dinners to have. So I figured this would be a fun twist on that and just something I hadn't done before. So this is some russet potatoes that I have laid out, and I did scrub them first and then I dry them off really good before poking holes all over. I drizzled on a little bit of olive oil, and I also like to sprinkle them with a little bit of garlic salt instead of just regular regular salt. Both are good though. And then I'm just taking them one by one and massaging that into the skin to make sure it's all coated evenly. And then I bake them at 400 for 1 hour, and I do flip them halfway through. As soon as I got those in the oven, I got started on my pasta salad. So I love these mini bow ties. I'm gonna go boil those over on the stove, and then I'm also gonna shred up this block of sharp cheddar cheese. I'm gonna use some of that in the pasta salad, and I'm also gonna need it for the potato skin. So there's that pasta cooked and drained. I always rinse off my pasta for pasta salad. For one, it cools it down really quick, which is important. You don't want to add like cold, crisp veggies to hot pasta. It's just going to make it mushy and gross. And also it keeps it from like all sticking together. So I done got my veggies chopped up. That was 2 mini cucumbers and just the last of my cherry tomatoes that I quartered. I love this salad supreme seasoning in all of my pasta salads, potato salads, you name it. So good. I just did a small handful of that shredded cheese. And then I recently discovered this ranch with bacon from Save-A-Lot. We've been liking to like dip our pizza in it. We've always loved like pizza and ranch. And I figured it would be really good in a pasta salad. So I wanted to give it a try. And it was good. It was definitely better the next day. But I do much prefer like a homemade ranch if I'm going to do like a ranch-based pasta salad, but totally good in a pinch. So I'm going to get that covered with cling wrap, and I'm going to let that sit in the fridge until everything else is done. So this is the pulled pork that I'm going to be using. I cooked this in my crock pot back in September. I will link the video to that in my description box if you want to see how I did it. But I purposefully made a lot so that I could vacuum seal different portions of it so that I could whip them out for recipes like this. So I am going to add some Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce to it, and I'm just going to get that stirred together real good with a fork. I did decide to pop it in the microwave for a couple of minutes because it's not going to go in the oven for like too long, so I just wanted to make sure that it was like properly heated through, so gonna set that to the side after it comes out of the microwave, and I let my potatoes slightly cool down, and I'm just taking a sharp knife and getting those cut in half. Now you definitely want to be extremely careful. Obviously, I feel like as I've gotten older, my hands are not as sensitive as they used to be, so I can handle holding hot things pretty well, but I mean, even I was still having a bit of a hard time. My hands were bright red after doing all of these potatoes. But anyways, as you can see, I'm just taking a small spoon and scooping out the middle of them. You don't want to completely hollow them out. You want to leave a rim so they hold up. But I spritzed them with some olive oil, and I grabbed some of this Steak and Shake seasoning. That's optional. You don't have to really season the inside, but I just felt like it. Why not, So, and also you can use any seasoning that you want to if you choose to go that route. But after I did that, I went ahead and flipped them on over. I've increased the oven to 450 degrees, and I'm going to pop them in for 10 minutes. Now, just to show y'all that I didn't waste the insides of those potatoes, I did go ahead and make like a quick mashed potato for us to have throughout the week for whatever. And then, as you can see, the insides of the potatoes have kind of crisped up, especially like around the edges. You can see that it's like golden brown, which is what we're going for. And now I'm just simply taking that barbecue pulled pork, and I'm just stuffing it into each little half potato. And then I'm going to take that cheese that I shredded up, and I'm just going to add as much as I can fit on there without it like spilling over. And then I'm going to lower my oven to 350, and I let those go for a final 10 minutes. So they're finally done now. As you can see, the cheese is nice and melted. I sprinkle them with some freeze-dried chives, and then I'm taking this Kinder's barbecue and drizzling it over the top. Not only do I love the taste of this particular barbecue sauce, but I really like how nicely it drizzles. I did go ahead and transfer those to a nicer platter, and I think that those look great, super appetizing. And then there's that pasta salad after it has been chilled. And then also to go with this, I used the last of my homemade baked beans that I had in the freezer. All I had to do was thaw those and heat them up. Those are cooked with sausage. So good. We had another really pretty day. The weather was great, so I like making this type of food on those types of days, apparently. But yeah, everything came out great. But that is all I got for y'all in today's video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for sticking to the end. I don't like how my voice sounds in this video. It's not fun doing voiceovers when you're sick, but I did not want to hold off on posting for another day. So I do hope that y'all enjoy the recipes, and I hope to see y'all in my next video.